What is going on, Wildlife X team? This is Michael here, and in today's video we're going to be talking about some thoughts of what would happen if the ocean levels were to rise drastically. We're not going to be talking about as if it were to happen instantaneously, because those results would be absolutely hectic, but what the effects are of the long-term increase of the ocean levels rising, with the Earth heating up from man-made sources, but also just coming out of the last ice age. Ocean waters are rising, and the ocean levels are rising about 1/8 of an inch per year. This doesn't sound like much, but it actually in the long term will have some fairly drastic effects on the Earth. So in this video, we're going to be exploring the causes of this, the effects, what we can do to affect this and adapt to this. Hope you enjoy. So as we all know, the Earth's temperature is increasing. Some people think this is more due to man-made reasons. Other people just think that it's because we're still coming out of the last ice age and the Earth naturally goes through extreme fluctuations of heat and cold, which it did before humanity was using fossil fuels, etc. One way or another, the Earth's temperature is increasing. As the Earth's temperature increases, water expands. It contracts when it's cold and it expands when it's warmer. And ice is melting as well. Ice is very slowly melting, and when ice melts, it comes in and it raises the sea level. If all of the Earth's ice were to immediately disappear, it would have absolutely drastic effects on the Earth as we know it. For example, if all of the ice were to instantly disappear, Florida as we know it would be completely wiped out, as well as a majority of the East Coast cities in the United States of America. For example, no more New York City, Boston, no more, and the entire state of Florida would be completely wiped out. San Diego would probably be wiped out too. Thankfully, such a drastic effect is not going to happen at all. However, now let's talk about what the long-term effects would be of this ocean slowly rising, what we can do to prevent it, and what we can do to adapt to it. For one, there are several negative effects of the ocean levels rising. One of them is that coastal storms can come more inland. When the ocean levels rise even slightly, this allows for storms to get more momentum going in a certain way, and it's just going to allow storms to come more inland. So rather than coming a certain far inland, for example a hurricane, it's going to be able to travel further in. This is just going to mean that it's going to have a lot more rain, a lot more wind, and a lot more craziness that these storms are going to have. So coastal cities are going to be more affected and damaged by a rising sea level. The same will be true for floods as well. As the water begins to naturally come more inwards, when something like a tsunami or a flood hits, it's just going to be able to have more power to come more inland and hurt more people and damage more structures. Again, 1/8 of an inch doesn't sound like a huge change. However, over the course of several years, this is going to have drastic effects on the Earth. Over hundreds of years, this is going to increase to a few inches, and these few inches are going to allow for some pretty big changes. Again, it doesn't sound like much, and it really isn't on the short term. So thankfully, in the long term, we're going to be able to adapt to it, but in also the long term, that does mean there are going to be changes we will eventually have to adapt to. Another problem could be that our drinking water is more likely to get contaminated. For underwater sources of clear, pure water, which isn't salt water, which is from the ocean, these are usually underground, and the more the ocean comes in inland, the more likely it is also to go underground and potentially contaminate these sources. So we're going to have to go even more inland in order to collect fresh water rather than collect it from a little bit further out. This could also affect agriculture, because when these water sources are turning into salt water, it's going to be very, very hard to actually do agriculture and grow crops, because you can't do it with salt water. You need fresh water in order to do that. Thankfully, in general, this is going to be a slower process. What we need to do is more research on the effects of global warming and human heat and fossil fuels and all of that stuff, because we need to figure out if there's something that we are doing to significantly cause this, or if this is something that the Earth is naturally doing. There are both arguments on both sides, and evidence does strongly suggest that humans play a strong role in this small heating up of the Earth. So what we need to do is find greener ways in order to live, so that way this change happens slower. It appears that in general, we were already coming out of an ice age before we were doing cars and all those things, so the Earth was definitely heating up to an extent, but that doesn't mean that what we're doing is also not affecting the Earth. It could just be speeding up that process, and we don't want to speed it up too fast. We want it to happen as slowly as possible, because the faster this change happens, the harder it's going to be to adapt to it. Also, like we said, storms are going to be worse. There could be changes in geography in the long term, and the slower that these changes happen, the better we're going to be able to adapt, the better the governments are going to be able to adapt, and the better the citizens of these coastal cities are going to be able to adapt. And so things are going to happen slowlier, and we're able to just kind of find solutions as the problems slowly arise. However, if we're adding to the problem and we're warming up very, very quickly, then it's going to make this happen faster and we're going to have to adapt faster. So all we have to do at the end of the day is just figure out what is the actual problem, and are we affecting it too much? Is it really a problem, and should we adapt to it? One way or another, there are going to be significant changes in the long term to a rising sea level. We have to be aware of it as a species and just for the entire Earth in general, so that way we can slowly adapt to it and be prepared for these changes that are coming in the future. So, we hope you guys enjoyed the video. My name is Michael with Wildlife X Team. Leave a thumbs up and let us know what you think in the comment section below. Thank you for watching, and we will see you later.